So, what if I told you there's an IQ test you literally can't study for? One that doesn't care about the facts you've memorized, but only how well you can think on your feet. That's the whole idea behind this really special benchmark for artificial intelligence. And today, we're going to look at why even the world's most powerful AIs are just completely hitting a wall with its newest version.
All right, so here's the game plan. First, we'll unpack what this original test was all about. Then, we'll see how AIs started to, crack the code. Next up, we'll explore why they had to raise the bar and create a whole new version. We'll get into the nitty-gritty of what makes this new test so tough. And finally, we'll look at what this all means for AI right now.
Okay, first things first. We really need to get to the heart of this whole thing. The big idea here was to find a way to measure an AI's raw, unfiltered problem-solving skills, what the researchers call fluid intelligence.
All right, check this out. You see these grids, right? You get a couple of examples showing how an input grid changes into an output. Your job? Figure out the secret rule and then apply it to a new one. This has nothing to do with memorizing facts from the internet. It's pure, abstract thinking. And this is exactly the kind of puzzle that made up the first version of the test, ARC-AG1. And this is the key takeaway, right? The test isn't measuring what an AI knows, it's about how it thinks. Can it stare down a puzzle it has never, ever seen before and just figure it out? That's fluid intelligence in a nutshell.
So the whole test was built on these three simple but brilliant rules. First, every single task is brand new, so there's no way to just memorize the answers. Second, you don't need any special knowledge, just basic stuff like shapes, colors, and symmetry. And maybe most important, they were all designed to be solvable by a regular person. Now, this is where the story gets really interesting. For years, AI was just not very good at this. Progress was super slow. But then, all of a sudden, things started to change, and fast. And a big part of that change was the growing interest and, of course, the money. The ARC prize competition started pulling in more and more brilliant minds. And when the prize money jumped to over $1 million in 2024, well, the race was officially on.
But here's the thing. The breakthrough wasn't just about building bigger and bigger models. Nope. It was a totally new strategy called test time adaptation. So instead of just relying on what it already knew, the AI would actively try out different approaches and kind of learn on the fly for each puzzle. It started to, think about the problem right in front of it. And the results of that new approach? Well, take a look. In late 2024, one of OpenAI's models, O3, when given a ton of computing power, scored a massive 88%. This was huge. For the very first time, an AI had actually beaten the estimated human score on this uncrammable test. But, and this is a big but, the way the AI solved it, basically by throwing an insane amount of computer power at each problem, actually revealed a flaw in the test itself. It became clear it was time for a major upgrade. So here's the problem/solution breakdown. The first version, ARC-AGI1, turned out to be a bit too vulnerable to just brute force. You could almost solve it with enough processing power instead of genuine smarts. Plus, they didn't have great data on how a bunch of different people performed. So the goals for ARC-AGI2 were super clear. Design puzzles that you can't brute force, get tons of data from real human solvers, and create a much better, more meaningful difficulty curve. And they didn't mess around building this new test. I mean, the process was intense. They came up with completely new, much harder tasks. Then they got hundreds of people to try to solve them to see what was possible and how long it took. They used all that data to carefully balance the difficulty levels and to make absolutely sure every single puzzle was fair and solvable. All right, so what exactly is it about these new ARC-AGI2 puzzles that just leaves the world's best AIs completely scratching their heads? Well, it really boils down to 4 new layers of difficulty. First up, there's what's called multi-rule reasoning. So instead of finding just one simple little trick, the AI now has to figure out and apply several rules all at the same time. Think about it. It might have to crop a section, then resize the shapes in that section, and then put them into the right spots, all as part of a single solution. Challenge number 2 is multi-step reasoning. This is all about planning ahead. The AI has to pull off a sequence of moves where each step absolutely depends on the one that came before it, right? You can't figure out step 3 until you've nailed steps 1 and 2. That kind of logical chain is incredibly hard for today's AIs. Then you've got contextual rules. This is kind of like adding an if-then statement to the puzzle. For example, maybe the main rule is stack the shapes. But how you stack them changes depending on a little clue, like the color of a border. So the AI doesn't just need to find the rule. It needs to understand the specific context for when to use it.
And finally, challenge number 4, and this might be the biggest hurdle of them all, is in-context symbol definition. This is wild. In these puzzles, some objects on the grid act like a little dictionary or legend, defining what other objects mean just for that one puzzle. It's forcing the AI to learn a whole new symbolic language, from scratch, for every single problem. That's a massive, massive ask for current systems.
So, okay, the bar has been raised a lot. The big question is, how did today's best of the best AI models actually do when they went up against this brand new, much tougher test? Honestly, the results are just wow. Take a look at this collapse. The system that won the 2024 prize, which got 56% on the old test, it managed just 2.5% on the new one. And you see the same story with huge models from OpenAI and Anthropic. Their scores just fell off a cliff, down to basically 0. It's a total and complete reset for the field. And get this, the creators of the test themselves say that scores this low, below 5%, probably aren't even meaningful. They say it's more likely just statistical noise, not a real signal of any reasoning. That just goes to show you how massive the gap is between where AI is today and this next level of intelligence. But a huge gap like this is also a huge opportunity. It's a challenge. And to kickstart that next wave of innovation, the ARC Prize for 2025 is putting up a $1 million prize pool for the first team that can really make a dent in this new, much harder test. And all of this brings us to the ultimate question, doesn't it? As all these brilliant researchers chase that high score, are they pushing AI towards something that can genuinely reason like a person? Or are we just getting really, really good at training a better puzzle solver? The race is on, and honestly, nobody knows the answer to that yet.